Broadcasting from the KMF Collective Studio, it's time for the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. This limited release show features the stories of the 2020 contestants of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's athletic competition, NBC's The Titan Games. Now, here's your host, Katie Galley.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. I'm your host, Katie Galley. Today in the KMF Collective Studio, I have with me opera singer, iron slinger, and Titan Games athlete, Michael Hewitt. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm good, Katie. How are you doing?
I am doing awesome. One, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. And two, thank you so much for being my first episode of this great podcast.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Glad to kick us off. Honored to have the starting spot.
Awesome. I'm so excited to dive in, Michael. Of course, love the show, and I'm super excited for it to start and to get the ball rolling with you too. And so, Michael, just to kind of get to know your background a little bit, I wonder, where did you grow up, and how, if at all, was your childhood shaped by athletics?
So I grew up in Littleton, Colorado.
Okay.
And my childhood was shaped by athletics, by how bad I was at them, and contrasted with how much my little brother was excelling at them.
Yeah.
You know, he was like a standout on his soccer team from the time that they were like 3 or 4, and, you know, just was like at all the highest levels of their increasing sort of development ladder. Just was really like crushing a bunch of kids that he played with, like went pro. He was like, college athlete. But for me, you know, meanwhile, I was like fat and watching him on the sidelines and like reading a book during the games.
Oh.
In place of athletics, I was just mostly like reading and doing nerdy things, which was great. I mean, that's not to say that I wasn't like outside playing. You know, we played a bunch of games of driveway hockey was a big thing. When we got the basketball hoop, that was a thing. Mm-hmm. And I played a lot of sports growing up.
Yeah.
But I just was never, I was never a standout at them. So it wasn't really like a huge part of my identity. And I don't think that I ever saw like a meaningful future in sport.
Yeah.
But I, you know, in the process of what I call unfatting myself, I did like, you know, increase my coordination a little bit, mind-muscle connection, and after a while. So what I like to my relationship to athletics now is like, look, if you got to put somebody on stage and you need them to, you know, look like a convincing boxer in like Rocky the Musical, which is a good musical, by the way.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like somebody like needs to throw, catch a football, basketball, whatever, and sell that to an audience that this person knows what they're doing, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
But if you actually need me to play the sport, I would bet on somebody else.
That's great. I love it. But you are aware of the ways you can help people and excel. And then but I love too how you have put together fitness with, obviously your musical talent and everything that you've done in that arena. And so viewing it from the perspective of it's not necessarily getting in shape for a sport, though it could be, but for you, it's that fitness level. So you can last longer on stage. You can dance that whole number. I mean, I love that. So it's just having that different perspective.
Yeah, and those are it's sort of like my idea muse is what I think of it as, is music and weights and how they are related. And it's really just, you know, from the 30,000 foot view is just, hey, look, these are crafts, right? Like, what does it take to become really excellent, masterful in a craft? And I started to see similarities between all the time that I was spending in the practice room, on the stage, trying to implement what I was learning from my teachers and mentors in the vocal and the music and the performance world with everything that I was trying to accomplish physically. Like, hey, what do I have to do to make my squat form perfect? Mm-hmm. What do I have to do here? And I just, over time, you know, you start to pick up on patterns and they become unignorable, and then they just look very obvious after long enough. And I started to realize that both music and weights are disciplines that really you will have a much more enjoyable time and likely more notable success if you are patient with yourself, if you don't skip the fundamentals, if you really employ what I call focused reps, which is not like, I'm not just going to do a squat, right? I'm not just going to sing this aria. I'm going to do the squat perfectly, or I'm going to really try. And I'm going to deliberately sing this aria really well, not just going to smash through it. And that's really like where my focus goes now. I get so much enjoyment out of that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Michael, for you, when did music start to really enter your life? I mean, like you said, at a young age, you played sports always, but it was later in life now, like you said, fitness really started to come into your life. But music specifically, and then with opera, when was that introduced?
Well, so I think music was really always a part of my life.
Yeah.
Because my father was a composer. So, and before he was a composer, he was playing professionally concerts and performances. So there's that. And then he and my mother met through music, and my mother has a really great voice. And she just played me the Beatles. Eric Clapton was like my very first concert. I think I fell asleep. Well, I did fall asleep. Looking back now, I realize I was 10 years old. I fell asleep because I got a contact high. Because stoners at the Eric Clapton concert were not going to be contained. So music was always there. And then, let's see, what really happened? I guess I was 11 when my dad put me in my first, or rather encouraged me to do my first musical. He had collaborated on some other project with a guy who ran a theater company. And there was a children's arm of the theater company, or that did like children's theater. And he was like, hey, you should go do this thing with Paul's company. I was like, whatever. Okay. And I did it. And then I started to get the attention that I didn't get in athletics. It was like, hey, you don't suck at this, kid. I was like, great. And I liked it. And I didn't know why I like it. And so as I just go through life, I try to be more and more aware of what I like about these processes. But yeah, that was basically my very first start. And then from there, I guess now looking back, it really was as I drifted away from, or as I realized the reality of my athletic potential versus the reality of my performance and musical potential. One went up and one went down. So once I quit trying to make the wrestling team, or quit trying to make the basketball team, rather, I lied. I went to 2 wrestling practices. I wasn't tough enough for that. I wasn't tough enough for that, Ben. But man, I wish that I had tried though. It would have been totally worth it. I didn't make the basketball team, and that was the sport that I had been good at. And basketball was really my first love. Watching Michael Jordan, the 98 Bulls, was just, I was like 7 years old. It changed my life forever. And Michael Jordan, like honestly, like my dad, Michael Jordan, and Dwayne Johnson are like the 3 people that I would say like I actually look up to.
Yeah.
So hey, Mike, if you're listening, I think we gotta smoke a cigar. I gotta get the trifecta. So basically, let me think. What happened then? I did choir. I had a great time yelling in choir. I was like, hey, cool. Like I found out I'm loud. Yeah. Or louder, or like just like louder naturally than other singers and people. Mm-hmm. So I really liked, there was like one song that we sang every year for like final concert, and it would be the time the choir director would point at me and she'd be like, okay, you don't have to hold back anymore. You can hit it. I really liked that, but I guess really what sort of clicked it into like, you're going to do this for real, is I won this competition my senior year of high school, and it was adjudicated by musical theater program heads, department heads at different colleges. And I won, and I won among like what I would consider to be like a really stacked competition pool. Some of the most talented people I've ever met, actually. To tell you the truth, Katie, like when I found out that the guy that I beat, because it was we were called there to be runner up and the winner to win, and I was like, well, there's no way I'm beating this kid. He's amazing. Like, and I like performed with him and like worked with him for a long time. His mom actually started that same theater school. Oh, wow. And I he's just a phenom. And they were like, and the runner up is this kid. And I was like, oh my God, I won. Yeah. So then I was like, you know what? I should go take this more seriously. Go to like if I won here, let me go to like the most competitive level and see what I got.
Yeah.
And I got into the school that I wanted to get into, like my number one school. And I went there for musical theater. And along the way, it just kind of became clear that, like, look, you're on the right path, kid, performing. You're just left of it, though. Mm-hmm. You're in musicals. You should be in opera. And at first I resisted that. And then, you know, there's this book that really had a big influence on my life called Demian by Hermann Hesse. And something in there amounts to, hey, look, like one of the most difficult things for a person to do is to actually go down, like walk the path of their quote unquote destiny. But once you do, like everything opens up for you. And I'd been having a little bit of success, but kind of feeling like I was banging my head against the wall sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as I committed fully to being an opera singer, the doors just opened. Wow. It was great. Yeah.
Man. And so, Michael, then, I mean, like you said, I love that story. I mean, being able to, you fully lean into your destiny, and then those doors open up, you were walking the path you were always meant to. But it took you letting go of something else that you were doing. And so then how did you decide, or how did you discover that opera music was something that you should pursue over being in musical theater or being in choir? How do you learn that you are an opera singer? It just seems like such a different talent.
Well, I'll tell you. So it's all music, right? Like music is going to be everywhere there. Just like sports, like you're probably going to run, or you got to be coordinated. But the difference is that, like, pardon me, I'm taking off my shirt because the sun is nice. I didn't want you to hear all that noise with the headphones. So it's all music. Like you're probably going to run. You're probably going to be coordinated in sports. But like, let's say that you absolutely excel at sprinting. Right? Mm-hmm. Then that sort of like narrows down the sports that you should be in. Okay. You know, maybe I guess what sport doesn't? You know, maybe boxing is not going to be for you, but track and field might be. Baseball might, you know, playing the outfield might be. And it's kind of like that with what are you going to sing? You know, you can read music and you have a nice voice. Cool. Now let's look at what your voice does most naturally. Where would it flourish instead of where would you be fighting an uphill battle? So for me, my voice flourishes. I don't need a microphone for speaking or for singing. So 70 years ago, that would have been perfect for golden age, what we call golden age musical theater. Mm-hmm. Shows like Carousel, Oklahoma, Guys and Dolls, Annie Get Your Gun, South Pacific, it's Camelot, etc. But now we have the microphone, so that changed the demands of what composers were writing for. So the need for that instrument went away or became exclusively needed in the opera house, which is, there's no amplification and you have to sing over a full orchestra and cut all the way to the back of the house. So not every voice can do that, but similarly, you know, not every voice can sing in a professional choir. Because it requires a different, I think of them like gears. Apologize, there's a helicopter overhead.
You're fine.
I think of it like gears of the voice. And it's sort of like having a nice like sports car. To me, or what I imagine having a nice sports car would be like. To me, opera is the sixth gear. Like that's really when I get to like let it rip and let all of the horses run. I love to sing, but it scratches like a certain kind of itch. It's like, look, people love I love lifting weights, but there's something about ripping a heavy deadlift that you can't get from a squat, that you can't get from, you know, getting on the rowing machine. It can only be there. And when you use your full voice, go into that sixth gear, it feels so good.
And so, Michael, I mean, from that time when you like you said, I mean, learning that you could hit that sixth gear. I mean, learning that that was even possible, and then realizing, wow, this is kind of where I need to lean into. Did you know, I guess, did you have any kind of inclination of this, like maybe even when you were younger, first getting into musical theater and getting into the choir, did you have any idea really what opera was, and that maybe this is something you wanted to pursue?
Oh my God, I had no idea. I remember my dad told me when I was like 11 or 12, he was like, hey, you should be an opera singer. I just remember being like just thinking, what do you know, old man, about opera? Because I didn't know what opera was. But now, like, I've got, 2 degrees in music from two good schools. So like, I know what goes into that, what goes into his degree.
Yeah.
Little did I know then that actually when you go to get a degree in music and vocal performance, in my case, you have a lot of class with composers and piano majors. And so he was a composer and a piano major when he was at school. So of course he knows about opera. He went to like a huge opera factory school. So now, 20 years later, I'm like, oh, okay, he actually didn't know what he was talking about. But yeah, then I had no idea what really happened. I guess, so I always had that in the back of my brain. And what people had been telling me whenever they would hear me sing. And I did this summer, so it was basically an internship while I was a musical theater student that it was opera focused, and it was in Italy. And they were like, hey, you should do this. And that was sort of the final straw for me. And I needed to decide, all right, do I want to stay on this path or do I want to switch paths? I listened to a musical that was very popular at the time. I was like, okay, this is going to be the future. Do I think I am going to fit what they want? Is my zone of genius what this genre, or rather like what this trend appreciates? And then I listened to an opera, and I watched one because I'd never really seen one. And I was just so blown away by what I saw. Mm-hmm. It was kind of watching, when I think back about it now, Katie, watching Eugene Onegin, the Met broadcast of Eugene Onegin, was like, I think what my 7-year-old self felt watching Michael Jordan and the Bulls is how I felt watching Dmitry Forstovsky. Except that the difference is like, I'm never going to be able to dunk or be coordinated or do anything like Michael Jordan. But somebody had just said, hey, you can do this as a career path, be like this guy. And we had the same voice, and I was like, oh my God, like I could be doing this thing that I'd never had any experience with before, that moved me so much. And then that I would get to participate in a really unique way. Yeah. Being that singer, and just being able to sing like that and do those things and just like tell that story. Right. Amazing. The very last scene, the last 2-3 minutes of Eugene Onegin, especially this production with Dimitri and Renee. Dimitri, okay. Rest in peace. Oh my God. I would put him up there on that short list with my dad, MJ, and Dwayne Johnson.
Just add him up there.
Dad, DJ, MJ, and Dimitri. But rest in peace. Yeah. So that was really it for me. That was it. Yeah. And so, and that's amazing. Being influenced and just having your eyes open to what the possibilities that could be open to if you walk down this path, and just having, like you said, these different people that inspire you, from the sporting world to the opera world to your own family. And it's just having all these different influences and learning, that walking down this path, this destiny that you felt was on your heart. And so, Michael, then for you, obviously, then your opera career then took off. You said you got your 2 degrees in music, and so how did once you really dove into opera, how did it kind of start to shape your professional career, your every kind of career, and bring you to where you are today? Okay, so graduated from Rice with my master's degree in 2017. The internship that I got immediately following that graduation, I got a couple of promotions, let's call them, an increase in responsibility at the last minute that came with a lot of pressure. Fortunately, I was really prepared, and I delivered. And that, I think, led to a job offer out here in Washington, D.C. And then, so I took that. and that was great. I made my, Kennedy Center debut on my 27th birthday, which I thought was pretty cool, singing some awesome new opera.
Yeah.
And then that led to more work out here. I had basically a full season with that same company the next year. So my wife and I stayed out here. That was great. I got to sing some awesome, I got to sing Traviata and Tosca with two of the best casts possible. Like, I just was like, it could not have been happier singing that music with those casts, and that it just was incredible. And honestly, I got to say right now, I don't know when you're going to air this. We're recording this in the time of coronavirus. Mm-hmm. When I look at, like, even though I'm like at the beginning of my career, if opera never comes back, and knock on wood, it's going to, I know, in some form, I'm so proud of those things. I wasn't the lead, but it was just like, just to be a part of like a Verdi ensemble and sing a Verdi line on that stage with those people, even as like a supporting character. It's one of the fondest memories of my whole life.
Wow.
So then I got, what happened then? So I did Tosca in the spring, this last year. And then I got another job offer for this winter, to do Disney's Newsies at Arena Stage. So I did like a complete 180.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went from Tosca and Traviata and like the most standard opera rep on one of the biggest opera houses in the country, like it's huge, to doing contemporary musical theater, which that's a totally different gear of voice than Six. Doing contemporary musical theater in Arena Stage, which was awesome because it's theater in the round. So like when you normally go to a theater, you're in what we call like 3/4 thrust or proscenium.
Okay.
Theater in the round is so intimate. So you can take like all 900,000 people and you spread them out over a different amount of space. So it really shrinks it down. It makes it way more intimate. And there are people around you from every side. So for me, that's like exactly what I like as a performer. So I did that. And then we were out here and I got the call for Titan Games. And then coronavirus happened. So we're out here, and that's how we ended up here.
Wow.
That's how we stayed here, rather. Yeah.
Man, it's quite the journey. And so, along the way, Michael, I mean, how did, obviously your music career was that's amazing how it's just taken off and you really leaned into it. And so then, have you started your own business? Have you built your own brand? And then, of course, you're the opera singer and iron slinger. So how did the fitness part come into play too?
So I started coaching people. Well, let me back up. I decided when I got my first professional job, I was in school finishing my last year of my undergrad. And so I was making like not part-time church job money. Singing in church was my job for a couple of years. So I was like, well, you know what? I want to get really in shape. I'm sick of like dancing around it. I want to commit to it. I want to do it. I'm going to have the body that I always told myself I was going to have. I had some like what I call former fat kid issues. Like I just, no matter how much I looked at myself and no matter how lean I got, I couldn't acknowledge that I was in shape.
Yeah.
So I needed to do something drastic to prove to myself, just to be like, dude, yes, you did it. And also part of what I found out that I love about it is I love digging into that discipline and working that hard.
Yeah.
So I made significant enough change, I guess, that people around me were like, what are you doing? And how can I do some of that? So I started training people sort of on the side for really cheap, and just trying to get them results. They were getting results. I was enjoying myself. So I slowly kept doing that. And I was competing in the D10 Decathlon, which is an awesome charity that raises money for pediatric cancer research and treatment.
Okay. And
they were having their first thing in Houston, and it was going to be at the Rice Stadium. So I sort of banged down their doors until they let me compete. And in training for that, I got really shredded. Like we were doing a lot of sprinting. I was learning a whole lot about, body, different ways to work out. And at that time I was also coaching some more people. So I was like, well, you know what? I need to learn more about diet and nutrition. Yeah. So I'm not going to tell these people to do something that I've never done. So I did it to myself. I basically like dieted as hard as I could or knew how to, counted the heck out of macros. Like I was so strict. Katie, if I had 7 grams of fat left on my little counter, I would go pour a half a tablespoon of olive oil and call it a night.
Wow.
And I found out that I love that stuff. And so then that plus the Instagram basically led to where I'm at now, which is I have just a bunch of people that I love working with that I'm fired up to talk to every single time we meet. And even though it's in coronavirus, they're losing weight, they're building muscle, they need new clothes, they're having a great time.
And it really is amazing, too, that you were able to bring together two things that you love. And it's always, of course, in pursuit of your passion for opera and your profession, but then, too, being able to bring that level of fitness into it. And then, moreover, be able to help people, too. So it's not just for yourself. It's you're living through your own experiences, living that authentic life, and in that, being able to help someone else walking through a similar journey.
Yeah, it's something that I think fitness, my relationship to it was something that I sort of was selfish about, that I took for granted for a long time, or like once the initial, I guess, like shininess of it had worn off, I've sort of forgot about it. But like, helping people discover that, and then like watching and hearing them recount that they are discovering that, it really, it makes me so happy. Like there was one of the guys, actually I've been working with him the longest. And when we started working, he did not like working out. He did not really. I've just watched him make a total 180. And on our weekly accountability call, this is call number, like 80 for this guy. We've been together for 18 months. And he was like, hey, I decided that I was going to show some people these progress photos, which is something that he doesn't do.
Yeah.
And he was like, and they were like astounded, and it felt really good to get complimented on that. And I really like helping them, like supporting them in their journey. And I was like, dude, that as a quote unquote coach or whatever, oh my God, dude, he made my day.
Wow. I love that.
Made my week. Yeah. So like being reminded that being reminded that you can do that. Like if you just step outside of yourself, like you can really have, and be unafraid, you can really have an impact on people if they're willing to trust you, and you do not break that trust.
Mm-hmm. I really like the way you put that. You have to step outside of yourself, in order to do that. And you have to kind of break down those walls, look beyond what you are trying to accomplish, and think maybe if I share my experiences or put myself out there, I might be able to help someone in return. And so, Michael, clearly you're on this incredible path and this incredible journey. And like you said, it ultimately brought you to the Titan Games debut. And so, but also the thing, and I think probably most everybody who's on the show, or maybe everybody in the world, I'm convinced, loves The Rock because he's amazing. But I wonder if you maybe remember when you were younger, or the time when you realized maybe you just became aware of The Rock, and how or why he inspired you, because he even said that he was on your list of people to want to meet, and now you have. So so what is, how or why did you become aware of him?
I guess I first became aware of my old buddy Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson when oh man, I must have been like a kid, WWE, but I didn't really watch WWE, so he was like a celebrity that I just knew about but didn't have any interaction with. Mm-hmm. Then Scorpion King,
of course.
But again, and his early movies were not the movies that I was watching a lot at that time.
Yeah.
Scorpion King was good, enjoyed that. Mummy 2, I guess, is the real one. And then I think maybe it was concurrently with social media. I just really wasn't focusing on Hollywood stars or anything like that, because I was trying to be Dmitry Forstovsky. Mm. And I think it must have been during Hercules when he really started just blasting on social media. Mm-hmm. and really embracing this role that I think people were pushing him towards, and that he was sort of gravitating towards, of motivator and guy who gets the most done in the whole world, but shows you that it's really hard, that it takes a whole lot of hard work. Mm-hmm. Really starting to put his brand of the hardest worker in the room out there. And then I started following him there, and then I just, one thing led to another. And God, when I think back, I think I had he did a Men's Health or something in 2016. Cause I remember I was in this apartment and I tore this poster out and I put it next to our door so that I get pumped up every day when I would go to go to Shepherd.
Heck
That's
yeah.
the music school at Rice.
Yeah.
Then that summer, God, I remember I was in. So Rice sends all their first year master's students in voice to Florence for a month to study Italian, and I was in they put us in like a room with a host family. So like I'm basically all but sharing a bed with my friend Ricardo. Like it's like two tiny twin beds like cramped together in this little itty bitty room. And The Rock had like just released the Rock alarm clock app.
Yeah.
Hardcore DJ fans, you guys are gonna know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking
the
about.
Rock alarm. Yeah, The Rock alarm. I figured you were one. So then it would be like, hey, get up, and like there's his voice like waking me up in the morning. I set an alarm at that time to make sure that I wasn't partying too hard in Italy. That said, like, it's still actually on my phone. Like The Rock is like for 6 a.m. It says The Rock has been up for hours. Like swear expletive, get to work.
Love that.
So yeah, so that was it, and then I saw that the Titan Games came out, and I applied for the Titan Games, and I didn't hear anything. Well, I guess that's not the question that you asked, and I don't even know if I'm even allowed to reveal that. Or maybe that's a later question.
Well, that is, yeah. Look, you can go ahead right into it. That was my next question is, how did you become a contestant on the Titan Games? Can you walk me through? Of course, you don't share everything, but you can just walk me through that kind of journey for you.
I have absolutely no idea. I mean, I applied season 1.
Yeah.
And didn't hear anything. Totally forgot about it because I'm like, yeah, there's a million people applying. Like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Watched it. Was great. And then I got an email right before I was starting rehearsals for Newsies, actually. And they were like, hey, we're doing season 2. Are you still interested? I was like, yes. Of course. Of course I'm still interested. And so then, it was a long process that was worth every bit of effort and sharing. Yeah, and then we just the series of interviews happened. They kept going, and they were like, hey, you're going to be you're in like the sort of final consideration for the combine. And then I got an email that was like, come to the combine, which is like basically where they measure you against everybody. Who knows what they're looking for? Mm-hmm. I honestly don't think that I have no idea what they're looking for. I'm just so blessed and feel so grateful and just in awe at the universe and thankful to the universe that I was picked. Yeah, and then I was on my way to a voice lesson actually, and got a call right before I went to the subway because I was visiting New York, and they're like, "Hey, you're going to be on Titan Games. Are you available?" I was like, "I will cancel that audition at the end of January.
Yep.
And go do this."
Wow.
And I'm glad I did because I don't even know if that opera company's having a season now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that really is such a good point. I mean, with everything going on and the Titan Games happening like just before, and I mean now coming up on airing in the midst of the coronavirus. I mean, that's amazing that you had the chance to even do it, to compete in what was about to happen. And I love that. I mean, just again walking through those doors of opportunity. And so, Michael, coming on the back end of the Titan Games, do you see of course now we're starting to get in the promotional stage and it's going to air in the next couple of weeks. For you, have you seen maybe your social media or your business, your fitness side or your opera side, either side kind of starting to blow up, or how do you kind of see this things happening on the back end of the Titan Games show?
Oh yeah, I mean there have been some visitors. Yes, there's been some attention. I think it's going to get even bigger, when the show airs.
Oh, yeah.
Well, any and all are welcome to my pages. I welcome all of you. Just have an open mind, like some singing, like some lifting, and have a sense of humor, and you'll enjoy your time on my page.
Absolutely.
Pages.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll be sure to include links, of course, to all of those pages so everyone will have easy access when your show airs. And this show is actually going to air in tandem with the release of episode 1 of the Titan Games. So it'll be on May 25th. So that'll be good. Everything will start to promote together. And so, Michael, I mean, having this incredible journey and having just this opportunity to compete on the Titan Games, I wonder, what would you say is your definition of a Titan?
Somebody who gets back up no matter what. Mm-hmm. Somebody who has to be pulled off of whatever they're doing. Like somebody who goes past the bell. Yeah. Somebody who goes past the bell, but I want to add extra layer in there. Somebody who readily will use their strength to protect, to defend, and to lift others up, and to make other people feel or actually become equally strong and empowered. So those two things are what I think makes a Titan makes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Above and beyond, but then moreover, it's helping others too along the way and pushing that, which is exactly how you're leading your life in that Titan fashion. And you're leading that authentic life, and then in turn, helping others to do the same. Just with everything that you've accomplished in such an incredible way, and looking forward, knowing that there's so much left and you're going to continue to accomplish incredible things, even especially now as your platforms start to grow because of this, your appearance on the Titan Games. That's going to be awesome. I just have one final question for you. And what do you want to be remembered for?
In my life or on the Titan Games?
In your life, just Michael Hewitt.
I would very much like to be remembered as someone who did not readily accept the status quo and decided and has everything in their life there intentionally, that does nothing passive, who took no action without intention, who, like I said, used his strength to protect, to defend, and to lift up everybody that was in my circle. Really to be the sort of embodiment of my namesake, Archangel Michael. And I would love to be remembered as a tireless and relentless student of the craft, of being on stage, and of telling stories, and of singing of all disciplines, and to apply those standards and enjoyment of both result and process in all areas of my life. As somebody who, I mean, just to be blunt, may I swear?
Yeah, you can.
Who loved the shit out of his wife, and had great, strong, like, meaningful, no BS relationships up to the very end, with my brother, with my mom, with my best friends. Yeah, that's all I could ask for. Mm-hmm. Riches, fame would be great, but just enough to be comfortable.
Yeah, right.
So that I can focus on all those other things.
Exactly. Not too excessive. Just just.
I would not say no to astounding amounts of generational wealth.
Right. Of course, you wouldn't say no. Of course, you can't turn that away.
I might say no to I might say no to fame, but and that's actually something that I really wrestled with, like being on this show. Like it kept me up at night for a little bit. I was like, oh God, do I really want to be in front of all these people? And then I was like, I mean, dude, that's where all roads were leading anyway. Like, what did you think was going to happen if you had the career that you wanted as an opera singer? Just suck it up, deal with it, just jump.
I love that. Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, that's what I would love to be remembered for.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's installment of the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. To learn more about each of these Titan athletes, be sure to check out their information in the links in my show notes. Furthermore, to stay up to date on all things coming out of the KMF Collective, be sure to subscribe to the Keep Moving Forward YouTube channel and follow along on social media, also available in the show notes. As the creator of the Titan Games, Mr. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says, "Titans aren't born, they're made." And I hope today's story helped you realize all that you are capable of becoming if you put in that hard work and just keep moving forward.